Hello and welcome back to Cooking with Kragger. We are finally here doing my famous stuffed chicken. We have the GoPro camera set up, so you're going to get a close view of the preparation for this and the cooking of it. And let's go. Step number one, you're going to want to flatten the chicken. First thing you always do if you're using a cutting board is get a damp cloth underneath it. I'll show you why. When you're cutting, if your board slips, you're going to cut yourself. Just take a little damp cloth, put it underneath. Look at that, nice and sturdy. It's not as important today because we're not cutting, but if you are ever cutting, you want to make sure you secure your board first. So now what we're going to do is take some of our plastic wrap, and I'm going to want a nice long piece here because I'm going to take that and fold it over. And I'm actually going to go double wide here because I've got medium-sized breasts. No jokes, please. I've got medium-sized breasts today. Oops. And they're going to spread out a little bit, so I'm going to make sure I'm covered. Take breast number one. And I'm just going to take a little bit of the fat off. I don't need that in there. Actually, that's pretty good. So now what I'm going to do is cover this up. And you want to leave a little bit of room on each end because it's going to spread. Otherwise, you're just going to burst right through this and make a huge mess. And you want to pound it down to about 1 centimeter thick or half an inch thick. And if you notice, I'm not using the tenderizing size. I'm just the side. I'm not using the tenderizer side. I'm using the flat side.
I guess you can let out your aggression at this point too.
So that looks pretty good. So now, you're going to want to find your end. And before we start putting in our cheese and ham for our stuffing, we're going to want to season the chicken a little bit. So I'm going to put a little bit of salt. Very light. You don't want too much salt here because you're going to dry it out. A little bit of pepper. Okay. Yes, thanks for the tip there from the wife. Whenever you're dealing with raw chicken, always wash your hands before you touch other things. So we have our pepper mill and our mini salt mill here. So in between seasoning both sides, I want to make sure I wash my hands. You don't want to get salmonella poisoning and things like that. So once you have your chicken breast ready to go, you're going to want to layer your cheese in. So I'm going to use 2 slices of Swiss cheese. Do you know where that cheese comes from? And then you're going to want to put your ham. So I'm going to actually go this way. Okay, and then to roll it, you want to get your end here. I'm just going to roll a bit of this up extra. This is very similar to rolling a sushi roll. So you just want to get close here, bring it over, and then you kind of want to just tightly roll it, and then pull the saran wrap towards you and roll it again. Pull it towards you, roll it again. And just keep doing that until you get it rolled right up. Okay. We have the second breast pounded out now. So I've got this flattened. This one's a little flatter than the first one. So I'm going to put my cheese on. And I'm going to put my ham on. Start with a tight roll. Pull this around with you. And just keep using that. So we have our 2 chicken breasts rolled. The next step is we're going to bread these. In order to bread something, you're going to start with some all-purpose flour. We're then going to have an egg wash. I'm going to crack a couple eggs into here, and I'm going to put a little bit of cream in there as well. And then whatever your breading is going to be. So to make this my special recipe, I always use almond slices on my breading. So I've got some broken up almond slices in here. I'm going to be adding in some cornflake crumbs. You can use panko crumbs, anything you want. And this is going to give it that little bit of extra crispness.
And this is called a breading station, right?
Yes, this is a breading station. Thank you. The one thing you always want to do is make sure you season every layer. So I'm going to put a bit of pepper. You can use pretty much any seasoning you want, just make sure you know what it's going to taste like. Don't experiment too much. I'm going to put a bit of cajun in here, Cajun spice, a bit salt, some onion powder, and some garlic powder. And just mix that up. I'm going to add in a little bit more of the breading here. Now I don't want to add too much because I want to make sure there's a lot of almond on my breading. This is just going to help fill those gaps there. And that's pretty much what we have. Okay, I'm going to use a little bit of cream, a couple eggs, and then I'm just going to mix the eggs up here with a fork. You want to make sure you break all the yolks up. Now, the secret to breading properly is to use one hand for dry and one hand for wet. I never do this. I just use my hands willy-nilly, and at the end it looks like I'm wearing breading gloves because my fingers are actually covered in this stuff. But I'm going to try the dry hand, wet hand method today and see how it works. Just grab your first breast, put it in the flour, and make sure it's covered. I've already abandoned my wet hand, dry hand method because I'm a Sinclair and I'm stubborn. You want to shake off the excess flour. What this flour is going to do is help the egg wash stick to your breast, and then the egg wash is going to help the breading stick as well. So put it in the egg wash. Now if your roll is coming apart, you can always use toothpicks to hold it together. But as you can see when we get closer, if you rolled it properly, it should hold its shape. And then before you cook it, you're going to want to chill it for 30 minutes in the fridge. And that's going to help the breading solidify a little more and hold together. And you'll be ready to go. Okay, let some of that excess egg wash drip off, and into the breading we go. Now you want to make sure you get the ends breaded as well, because they are open and the cheese is going to ooze out. Still see a little bit of chicken there, so I'm just going to roll it a little bit more. We have the first one done. As you can see, I'm getting my breading gloves already. And just repeat the process till you have them all done. All right, so once you have your breading done, you're gonna wanna wrap your chicken in some more saran wrap, and you're gonna wrap it tight. This is gonna help your breading stick. So we'll start with this one. What I'm gonna do here is shake off some of that excess breading. I'm gonna put it lengthwise, and I'm gonna do this. Now if you can get it tight, that'll make it easier. As you can see, we're getting a nice, even, I don't know, what is that?
Sausage.
And what doing this also does is it takes those loose ends and puts them all stuck together, so it's going to help prevent your cheese from oozing out. And it's going to make it look so nice when you cut into it as well. We have our two breasts done, so what we're going to do now is chill those for 30 minutes in the fridge. And after that, we're going to pan fry them, and then we're going to shove them in the oven. We've had the chicken chilling for 30 minutes. I'm going to unwrap it now, and we're going to pan fry it. Slowly do that, and there you go. Put that to the side. All right, when you're ready to start pan frying, get your oven ready, because you're going to have to bake this after you pan fry it anyways. I'm going to put it in at 375. All right, once your oil's hot enough, gently take your chicken and you put it in the pan. You don't want to overcrowd your pan because these are still cool from the fridge. I did leave them out at room temperature for a little bit just to let them warm up a touch. We're going to cook that evenly brown on all sides, and then we're going to put it in the oven to finish off. Okay, we've been pan frying the chicken for probably about 2 to 3 minutes per side, and yep, we're good to go. Now, when you put it in the oven, if you can put it on a wire rack, that's preferable, because that way the breading won't stick to whatever it's sitting on, and you're going to have breading all the way around. If you don't have a wire rack, you can use tin foil on a baking sheet, anything like that. You might want to put a bit of grease on the baking sheet first. I'm going to put these in for probably, I'm going to check them after about 7 minutes, I think, and we'll see how we go from there. And while that's in the oven, you can start in your sauce. So I'm going to take a medium-sized saucepan and I'm going to put it to just below medium heat. You're going to want to put in 3 tablespoons of butter. I'm going to melt that down. And then once you have a little bit of it melted, you're going to want to take 2 minced cloves of garlic and you're going to want to cook that till it's soft. Okay, I think we're good there. We've got some of the oils out of the garlic. Then you want to add in 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. And what we're making here is called a roux. It's a French term. And this is the standard base for a lot of the sauces that you'll see in professional cooking.
Now this is usually equal parts of fat and flour, right?
Exactly, yeah. And depending on the kind of sauce you want, you might have to cook this out a little bit. I'm actually just getting this incorporated for 1 minute. What I should be doing is whisking it. If you don't have a whisk, if you don't have a silicone whisk and you're using a metal pan, you can always use a spatula or a wooden spoon. But I just want to make sure we're getting this mixed up nicely. And if you see this starting to cook, you definitely want to stop. So I'm going to put this a little bit lower. And then what you want to do is slowly add in 2 1/4 cups of milk. Just put a little bit in it first. You kind of want to temper it. And once you start doing this, take it off the heat. Okay. And if you do this slowly, you should get a nice, smooth, creamy sauce. Okay, I'm going to put it back on a low heat now. You don't want it to get cold because it'll start to separate. So I'm just going to make sure I keep whisking this and make sure there's no lumps in it. And you basically want to get it up to just a simmer. Once it starts simmering, take it off the heat and you're going to add in your cheese. I'm going to be putting in 1/2 cup of fresh Parmesan cheese.
So when you add cheese, what kind of sauce is this then?
Could be a derivative of a Mornay sauce. Great question. And you just want to mix that around and get the cheese to melt. What's one thing I always need to do at this point of a sauce? What am I missing?
Season it.
Exactly. A bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. Let's just mix that up. Now, if you notice your sauce is too runny, you can always put it back on the heat again. Don't bring it to a boil because it'll break, but just give it a little more heat and it should thicken up. Worst case, you can always make a little bit of roux in another pan on the side. Again, equal parts fat, equal parts flour. And just add that in and it should thicken up nicely. I put it on just below medium heat for another 1 or 2 minutes. It's starting to simmer now, and there we go. Now this one looks a little lumpy. It's actually the cheese pieces in there that's making it like this. And you got to remember there are bits of garlic in there as well. I did mince it, but they were still significant enough that you probably notice them in the sauce. But you're going to get that oil from the garlic that has permeated the sauce, and you're going to get that really good creamy garlic flavor. Perfect. All right, so we are at 160. We're done. Perfect.
You said 165 at the beginning,
Yeah.
by the way.
Yeah, I know. It's going to keep cooking as you pull it out because it's still hot. Now, one thing you want to do before you cut it is let it rest for just a few minutes, maybe 3 to 5 minutes. Otherwise, you cut it and all the cheese and the juices are just going to flow out, and then you're going to have a dry piece of chicken after. So let it rest just for a bit. Check on your sauce, get your plates ready, and we'll see you in a bit. Chicken's out of the oven, the moment of truth. And if you want, you can cut it on an angle, you can cut it flat, however you want to do it. I'm going to go a bit of an angle here. You're going to want a fairly sharp knife. I did sharpen this before we started. And I've already rubbed. All right, let's see if the second one goes a little bit better. I think what happened with the breading on mine, why it's falling off, is I overcooked it. I got it a little bit darker than I should have. I think I had the oil too hot, so now you see what happens when you mess up. I guess you can see inside there, you can see the different rolls of cheese and ham. Unfortunately, a bit of cheese oozed out on this one, so it's not quite as cheesy as the first one. There we go. So this one's a little more of a golden brown cooking on the breading, so I was right. It was the overcooking of the breading that caused the issue. So I'm just going to put that one there so you get a good view of what it looks like. Okay, and when you're ready, you just take your sauce and pour it over top. And that is Kragger's famous stuffed chicken. Hope you enjoyed that, and we'll see what we do in the next episode. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.